Okay, let's do this NuanceBro thing. So as you can see, they're all masked up here. NuanceBro's mask looks a little bit shasty, and he's like arguing with this woman who is rather large, and this guy says, I can't breathe, and if you can't breathe, then maybe take off the thing that's obstructing your face. Just a bit of advice. I mean, also, was he not able to breathe when he bought that shirt and decided to put it on, or is he just making a callback or a reference to something else? Who knows? Somebody said that's a woman on the end. Yeah, I said whammon.
Death for black males under the age of 44 is?
Of course we know.
Look, you see NuanceBro brings his like water bottle out there for like intimidation. Look.
Do you know what the #1 cause of death for
See, look. All right, I gotta slow him down. He's already talking. Oh no, whatever. We'll leave it with that.
black males under the age?
See, look, he like flexes his water bottle at the camera right there, and that's like supposed to be like an intimidation tactic. It's like, look, I'm carrying a gallon of water. Like, somebody's like, he brings out the bottle of water as a defense mechanism. I mean, he is joining Antifa, so I mean, if you think about it, the water is to wash the pepper spray out of his eyes from the police that he's against. So, like, that's what he's doing. That's what's happening. 100%. He is guilty of that. But yeah, so he brings out the water. It's total intimidation tactic. It's meant to be a power move. It's meant to scare these people, these innocent people that are out there peacefully protesting. And honestly, I'm quite ashamed of it. I think it is shameful. NuanceBro, for shame. Like, you should be disgusted with yourself.
Age of 44 is?
Of course we know. Of course we know what that is. Where are you going with this interview? I just
want to.
I don't like the way you carry it.
Well, I mean,
What YouTube channel this?
It's a NuanceBro.
Do y'all like black people?
What's up, guys? NuanceBro.
She asked him if he likes black people. That's how you can obviously tell that this is going to be a good sense of the of what's going on. I'm gonna have to go normal speed. Also, NuanceBro totally hamming it up over the microphone right there. I mean, do you see that? He's like, "What's up, guy?" NuanceBro here, like coughing into the microphone, spreading the Rona. But yeah, shameful, honestly. This video has 167,000 views, and even I gave it a like, so I guess it must be good. But, you know, let's see.
Checking in. We're here in Washington, D.C. at the March on Washington. Let's go talk to people, see what's going on. So why are we out here today?
I'm out here to support.
Hey, NuanceBro. She's wearing a Black Lives Matter shirt. That's why she's out there. What, can't you read? God, it's just basic reading comprehension. What a terrible question from a bad interviewer. Just saying. Like, read the room. Somebody's asking me if I actually support child labor. Go look into child labor. All right, you know what? I'll have to save that for a second before I get into it. But the short answer is, what percentage am I last at on Twitter? 100,000,000%. No, but in all seriousness, if you abolish child labor in the third world, you end up forcing people that are in poverty that need to send their kids to work in order to make money into more desperate and dire straits. And we've seen the consequences of this actually being implemented in places like Bangladesh, where they ended up getting 50,000 kids fired from the garment industry, and those kids didn't end up going to school like we would hope. They ended up going into rougher industries or sex trafficking or into starvation. So, do I think child labor is like this great noble thing? No. If I thought abolishing child labor would let kids go to school, become educated, and be better off in the future, then I would be in favor of it. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Like, people are working because they need money. Their families are broke. So taking away economic opportunities from people whose families are broke is ridiculous. And for us in the West, where we have the privilege to not have our kids have to go to work, to lecture these people in third world countries based on their behaviors is complete and total immorality. Also, we had child labor in the United States of America until we became a rich enough country to be able to afford not to have it. If you look at the countries that are increasing in child labor, those are broker, poorer countries. If you look at countries like China, which are notorious for child labor, child labor in China is actually on the decline because the Chinese are becoming a richer people that can emphasize education more. The Japanese went through this, the Koreans went through this, the Americans went through this, the British went through this. Everybody in the history of the world went through this. And while a lot of people focus on factories controlled by major corporations, you have to understand that most child labor is done on local farms. So you work the farm of your family, and that is not a good existence. The reason those kids end up going to the factories, the reasons anybody ends up going from their little plot of land to the factories is because the factories play better. So essentially what you're saying is you want to take away these people's best option under their circumstances because you find it to be personally morally abhorrent, because you personally cannot see yourself in the shoes of those children and of those families that send their kids to work. And this is clearly to make a distinction between different types of labor that are obviously exploitative and not good. So in Pakistan, they have a system where kids are essentially indentured servants, and because they're so young and they can't do math, they don't realize that they're actually never going to be able to pay off their debt, and they're essentially making bricks in perpetuity for this person while ever increasing their debt. So like that kind, obviously I wouldn't support it because you're not improving your economic station by becoming more and more dependent on your debtor. Obviously, if you're literally enslaving people, that's not improving your economic conditions. But yes, in the circumstances that we're talking about, where we're discussing kids with very little options or families, societies with very little options, I would not deny them the ability to improve their station in life. No way. So that's my position on it. Also known as my Twitter position on it, which is 1.5 million% in favor of it. But also look up Bangladesh, the garment industry, and 1994, I believe, a Child Labor Act was passed there. So I think the shorthand version of that position is send them to the mines. Send them to the mines. Send them to the mines. Okay? Alright, let's get back to this NuanceBro thing. So.
Support Black Lives Matter movement.
Yeah, see, NuanceBro, I told you. She was there for the Black Lives Matter movement. It's literally on her shirt. Why are you asking such a stupid question? Gosh.
As well as justice for the race of my people. And
Ooh, the race of her people. Whoa. That got uncomfortable. I don't support that. All people are my race. I'm not saying that to be to be like poetic or anything. I'm just Hispanic. We're all mixed up. So all people are my race.
Also, just to feel, I guess, the movement, because they've had several demonstrations from where I'm from, and that's from Baltimore, and I didn't participate in that by doing the marches, but in spirit, I was participating. But this time I wanted to come so that I can be arm to arm and face to face with individuals, of different backgrounds.
Arm to arm, face to face with different individuals. I mean, so far this woman hasn't said anything that's too, that's really anything. I do want to point out that right here, YouTube, which will ban you for posting things that they deem unscientific, has an ad that they are serving to me about a fruit that kills diabetes. Does everybody see that right there? It's in big yellow letters. So, yeah, that's what YouTube is advertising to me. Okay, just want to make sure everybody understands that.
Backgrounds, different educational levels, and just to be able to come together with one message, one unified cause, in the hopes that things will change for us.
Sure. And how do we bring, first of all, what kind of specific change, and how do we bring?
Nuance Bro, keep your distance.
About that change.
Well, the specific changes is the legislations that.
So if you look at what Nuance Bro's doing there, he's trying to show off his bicep. That's why he's like weirdly arching it and holding it like that. Like, bro, who are you trying to impress? Like, I can see you doing that. Like, that's not a comfortable position. Like, what is that? Come on, Nuance Bro. Does anybody else notice that he's doing that? He's trying to flex on us. Like, how dare you? Somebody says they're pretty impressed. All right, if you're impressed by that, then it's okay. But Nuance Bro is flexing on all of us. That's what he's trying to do right there. I mean, he's not flexing with his height, though. You know, like, because he is about the same height as that woman. But he is trying to flex on us, and I think that is important. I'm just gonna like slander Nuance Bro throughout the entirety of this. I like Nuance Bro. He's a good friend. He's a gentleman and a scholar, and his kindness knows no bounds.
Causes our people not to be able to, get financing, get housing, because there's so many restrictions on us, and so I would like to see, the change in, policing and how they go about handling people of.
I just realized that this woman has like the rogue streak in the front of her hair, and I think it works. A lot of people want me to say something negative, but somebody's like, Sean's gallon of water would be twice as big. I don't think you know that a gallon is a unit of measurement, but okay. But yeah, she has a little rogue there. I support it.
Not just black race, but of all different types of nationalities, and that is not one way for one specific group, but it should be one way for all, for everybody to be able to get justice. And I'm a mom. I have 2 African-American sons, and I love them to death, and I'm concerned about.
Wait, is she not like African American? I mean, I know she's wearing a mask, so maybe I'm getting this wrong. But don't African Americans typically have African American children? Huh. I don't know. Yeah, I think she's lying right there.
Them, as to how they react if they get pulled over, or if they get stopped. I'm concerned about that.
Where's Jacob Blake's parents telling him to react well if he got pulled over or stopped by the police? I keep hearing a lot about this talk that people supposedly have, but I never seem to get people, like any of these videos that we end up talking about, where people are following the directions in the talk. Like what's going on?
But I also taught them, how to be patient, and how to love. And I raised them up, as Christian men. And knowing that, my hopes is that they will always come home and that they'll be able to conduct themselves in whatever situation they may find themselves in.
I mean, it's like, how many sons do you have?
I have 2.
2. And they're what age?
One is 24, and one will be 38 in October.
Okay. All right. I mean, they're good. Like the 24-year-old is in that age range where you're in like a problem area. But once you get past 25, like you're good. Like all the bad things happen to you, especially if you're a young man, in the 14 to 24, 15 to 25 age range. So, like, she's good. Like, I was laughing a little bit because she's, like, 2 African-American sons. By the way, I would not have guessed that this woman had a 38-year-old son. Like, she comes off as way younger. So, respect right there. But, yeah, no, this is somebody who did a good job. If she raised her kids and they're fine at that age, then she's all good. So, I got to trim back the hatred. No, I don't have any hatred. I'm a good person.
Do you know what the #1 cause of death is for black males under the age of 44 in the United States?
Uh-oh, NuanceBro trying to regulate with the facts and figures, saying, oh, under the age of 44. Like, your eldest son is not out of the woods, ma'am.
Well, I believe, from my viewpoint, that it's kind of like the killing of one another, and that really bothers me as well, because it's like we're marching out here for Black Lives Matter because of something that another race has done to us. But what about what we're doing, for ourselves, or to ourselves, as African American people?
I give her respect. She just came out and laid out the cold hard truth right there. Yeah. I haven't seen this before, so yeah, no, I give her respect. See, that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize is, like, the denialist tactics. Like, did you guys ever see that debate? A lot of people did reactions to it with the guy dressed like corn for some reason, where he was like trying to deny the fact that like black crime is an actual issue, like the entire time. And even when they finally got agreement that it is a real thing and it is a real problem, he would, like, later on in the debate, he would just change up the subject and try to avoid that. Like, what? And same thing with the Surfs TV guy or Vosh, where we're going over whether or not something is happening or isn't it, or it isn't happening. And these guys don't want to get to that point in the conversation. That's not something that they're comfortable with. So they end up asking you why constantly. So you're trying to establish something that they're denying, that black on black crime is significantly higher than white on white crime, and that it is its own problem in and of itself. And they ask you why, because they don't want to touch on that. But it's like, you can't get to the why unless you talk about what is first. Like, I can't explain why something is unless we agree that it's happening. But you take that. That's all like white progressive, like online socialist virtue signaling nonsense. You go to people on the streets and, like, just people who have to live in these neighborhoods, people who like actually observe what's going around, like people who aren't from, rich parts of Beverly Hills and then move to Washington State, that actually live near black people or are black people, and they'll tell you the truth almost every single time, especially in one-on-one scenarios like this. It seems like only the professional activists and the white progressives are uncomfortable with this reality. Like, she tells you straight up, like, how she feels about that. She had sons in her life, 2 sons. Like, they're grown up. Like, she knows how it is.
But I do know that...
And by the way, it's not like... And this is represented in the polling numbers, because if you look at black people in the United States of America, it's something like 80% of them want the same level of police or more police in their areas. Only 20%, it's actually 19%, want to defund or decrease the police in their areas. And that's not to say that they're not more concerned about police brutality than the general population, but they know that getting rid of police is not a good answer. Yoshi put $5. Oh dear God, that message is so small. Shouldn't I be able to see that here? Yeah, there we go. What up, Sean? I'm curious why you don't make vids about Breonna Taylor. Also, when are you gonna stream with Andrew? Don't Walk Run Productions. This must happen. You gotta ask Andrew to stream, man. Like, he's the bigger channel. I've invited him on once before, but he was busy, and I didn't ask again. Andrew's a great guy. Like, I like his work. You guys should definitely check out Don't Walk Run Productions or Run Don't Walk Productions. Whichever name it is, I always flip it in my head. But he's a good guy. Breonna Taylor, I will be doing videos soon. I'm going through, there's like a document that was leaked. So we'll talk about that soon. On the main channel.
Heart attacks is one of the things that's killing, our race.
Above the age of under 44, it's homicides number 1.
Right, that's number 1. But also, we have to be healthy, as well. So,
I mean, she's deflecting right now. I would say early childhood obesity is a big problem too, but it's not really related. You know what I mean? Like we're talking about. Like, if we're talking about murders, right? We're talking about Black Lives Matter. We're talking about alleged murders. Like, what is the way bigger threat of murders? Like, it's not even close. So, yeah.
I think between the two, yeah, that's those two are the number 1 causes for our race, to kind of, I don't know, Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's hard. It is hard.
you mentioned you live in Baltimore, which is one of the
Yes,
most dangerous cities in America.
I grew up in Baltimore City, in Emerson Village, and it was a beautiful place. I remember, the streets being lined with like fresh grass, and people's lawns. Everybody had flowers and plants and porch furniture.
Oh yeah, this is old school for sure. Like she's like old enough to remember the decline of Baltimore. I mean, not when it's already in decline, but like better times in the city. I, you know.
And my dad, is still there. And when I come there, it really saddens me because
Still NuanceBro flexing.
of what I see now, that the community, has gone.
Look at him, he's trying to poke his chest into there too. He's like, get that in the shot. So if you guys don't know, NuanceBro like finds somebody on the street that is like a skinny kid, and he makes him hold his camera, just so he could flex on them the entire time. So, yeah, that's what's happening. Let's see.
And so far down, it's unrecognizable.
Why do you think that is?
I think it is because of poverty, for one thing, and that people just don't have the respect that they used to have for the place that they live. Because if we used to go around, and help our neighbors and clean up, the streets, on our own, without anybody having to tell us. Because that was our community and we loved it,
Well, what do you think? Because like obviously there was poverty back in the day. There was,
right,
all those. Like,
right.
what changed?
I think
This is a boring interview. I'm waiting for some fireworks, NuanceBro. You gotta lead off with somebody ready to fight you. Like somebody be like, no, you're the problem. I mean, I see you 7, 8, 3, 5, bunch of numbers in your name. I see you making fun of me saying,
what happened is the homeowners, have moved out. And like I said, it's been a long time.
Like white flight sort of thing? Or?
No, I think it's just that the homeowners, have moved out and we had a lot of renters.
A lot of renters move in. Well, it's what ends up happening is these city centers, people used to have to move there because transportation was a big cost of doing business for the longest time in this country. So let's see, what is that line called? There's a line in the United States of America. I know I made a video about it, and I can't believe I can't remember what it is. Let's see. Line. Eastern U.S. Is it a fall line? All right, let me find the images. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. This freaking dark mode, man. Like, I have the dark mode for my eyes so I can, actually see better. And, like, I have, like, an extension that does it. And just sometimes it's garbage. It's a garbage. Oh, come on. Let's see. Yeah, there's a line. I think it's a fall line on the eastern seaboard. Let's see. I need this dark mode off. Oh my god. This is like so complicated just to show you one thing. Okay, there we go. Yeah, okay, this is perfect. So let me copy that. So. Alright, so there's this line. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, so there's this line right here. Is this the eastern United States of America? Nope. No, it is. Okay. So where's Baltimore on this? There we go. You see Baltimore is right here. So there's this line. It's called the fall line. And on the It's actually better depicted right here. And, there we go. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Can I get a bigger one? Right here. Can you guys see that clearly? Let's see. Can you guys see clearly what I'm looking at? Yeah, there we go. Okay. So there's this line. It's called the fall zone. Okay, there we go. That's the name I was looking for. And right here, on the right side of the line, closer to the Atlantic Ocean, all the rivers are smooth and easy to navigate, right? Right here on the western part of this, all the rivers are choppy, more or less, right? It's not a universal rule, but 9 times out of 10. Like, this is what we're dealing with. So if you can actually plant like major cities in the United States on this line, and they actually all track with it. They're all built on the same point where the water is easier to circumnavigate by boat than it is by, any other way, right? Because back then, the only way you could transport goods throughout the United States of America was by boat. So this is like the basic infrastructure for every single city on the eastern seaboard except for Miami, because that's just not where the line ends up going, right? So every major city more or less is on this line. That gives you a huge advantage because, again, you have to transport goods via water in order to have an effective city. So Baltimore is on this line. So for a long period of time, due to reasons that are outside of the control of Baltimore, they were able to have natural advantages over other locations in order to have a city be established, right? But over time, when we get to like the 60s, 70s, transportation stopped being so much of a problem. We started to develop ground transportation, so you'd be able to put in long haul trucks, goods, and drive them across the country. So all of the advantages that were held in cities that were advantaged greatly by being close to water started to erode away over time. However, the governance of all these cities, and this is true for Detroit and a bunch of other ones, they ended up taking advantage of these natural advantages that basically meant that you had to work there by instituting a ton of regulations and all kinds of insane stuff, because at the time that those rules were set in, people could not move. Like, you could not move your industry. Now that's not the case anymore, right? Like, you used to not be able to locate any industry in the southern parts of the United States because there was no air conditioner and it's impossible to like manufacture stuff. That's not the case. So transportation and air conditioner totally changed the game. So all of these cities are in decline. Not all the ones that don't, that haven't adapted to their new circumstances are in decline because of the fact that they have basically had that same kind of attitude where they're entitled to industry and they won't adapt to compete with other places. Like, the governing forces in Baltimore still believe that Baltimore has all of the advantages that made Baltimore how it used to be, but that doesn't exist anymore. All that unionization and all that stuff only works is if you have basically a captive employer that can't afford to move somewhere else. That's not the case anymore. So if you look at most of the cities in the Rust Belt, it's not trade or anything like that caused the decline. It's the fact that these advantages, these historic geographical advantages, are no longer worth what they used to be worth now, and a lot of these places haven't adapted to it. And if you look at other cities that had advantages like this, like Pittsburgh, that have actually changed and not try to woo back the steel industry and actually moved on to robotics, those cities have changed their circumstances. So that's really what the actual decline of Baltimore is about. It's actually not really a lot, like, people say democratic governance, and that's like a shorthand because democratic governance has a bunch of policies that take advantage of the fact that the employer can't move, and it hasn't really changed despite that not being the case. But that's why you have to know how these cities fail, you have to know how they were successful in the first place. So, ta-da! Right there. There you go. There's a long and convoluted answer. I did do a YouTube video explaining this concept, but not specifically Baltimore. I think I was talking more about New Orleans and why New Orleans at one point was the most important city in the United States of America for military and economic purposes.
Came into, the community and kind of, taking over, the area. And it's only like I know my dad and maybe a couple of other people that I grew up with, or families that I grew up with, are.
All right, so something from a tree just fell and hit NuanceBro, but I want to pretend that somebody threw that at him. And by the way, NuanceBro is right about white flight. So what happened was they started raising the taxes and all the fees, and if you don't have to live in the city to work in the city, and you don't have to pay the taxes and the fees, then eventually you're decimating your tax base by raising taxes. So, I mean, that is true.
Still there. But yeah, I just think that it's a lack of wanting, everything to look good, and peaceful, That's, yeah.
I mean, but why do you think those homeowners like moved out of a place like Baltimore? We saw this also in Detroit when people left and the city got destroyed, and they're moving to other places. Like maybe it had to do with like crime and things like that, right?
Yeah.
Like why do you think people are moving out?
I think so. I think the crime levels have gone up. I have since moved out. But I still have my dad there. My
Plot twist. She's dipped out of. That's why I'm actually liking a lot of the stuff that this woman is saying. Like, she's moved out of Baltimore. Like, she knows. Like, this is what happens when you talk to actual real people at these events. This is like the what you call it. It's not the same because Nico is a like an advocate for policy positions. But it was like talking to Nico behind the scenes. Like, you find out that these are real people and they have like real passions and they can actually engage in conversations and they're not just reading off talking points. You know what I mean? Like, one of the most frustrating things about debating like bread tubers is that you can't have a real discussion with them about these like policy things because they're not comfortable with the material and they think if they concede any ground to you, then they somehow lost some moral high ground against you. When that's not the case. Like, this is how real people talk and think about these issues and interact with these issues.
home there where I was raised, and I still go there, but I do think, that crime, has a lot, to do with people, wanting to leave or have left. Yeah.
So why are we out here today?
That's it? Oh, he found the white girls. My sign would be better if you funded schools like they were the police. This woman is stupid. She's stupid. That's a stupid sign. If you have that sign, you are stupid. The number one thing, if you ever notice these defund the police budgets, like, oh, look at the budget and look at how much the police gets, they always never have education listed, and that's because education is the number one item in every state's budget in the union, bar none, right? Like New York City, I remember I saw a budget where it was like $6 billion goes to the NYPD, and it had the highest of there. Now, I know for a fact that New York City is the largest school district in the country. I know for a fact that we have way more money in our public school systems than we do in the NYPD. And it turns out the number for our public school system here in New York City, $24 billion. So if you ever wonder why they cut off the budget right at the cops at the top, it's because they're lying to you. Or they're just not smart. So yeah, we funnel a ton of money into our public school system, way more money than the police. The police should get more of that money because crime is something that hurts the economy overall. So actually having the police battling crime and getting that crime rate down will end up having downstream effects of increasing your tax base. So completely wrong, completely buffoonish. And by the way, her handwriting's really nice. So like, her school has enough funding.
So I'm personally here because educational inequity is a really big issue for me.
Educational inequity is a really big issue for me. Seriously?
Do you know anything about educational inequity?
Do you know anything about educational inequity? How people have different outcomes in education? Do you know anything about it? Idiot. Let's see how long it takes NuanceBro to start flexing in this video.
Differences between...
Oh, I got a thing. Let's see. Big balls. You see the new body cam footage of the Tulsa traffic stop shooting. Watched it earlier today, and it haunts me cops have an impossible job. Is that the one where the guy they said was unarmed? And you could just tell me in the regular chat, where the guy who they say was unarmed actually had a knife and he was charging the cop? Because I did see that earlier today. I didn't know that was in Tulsa. By the way, thank you so much for the $10. Also, NuanceBro is like semi in a flex right now. I'm just saying. Like,
between education, between
look at that, look at that. He's just bringing that water bottle,
areas,
flexing it as he's talking.
are disproportionately black.
Wait, what the hell did this idiot say? Oh no, well, way too far back.
Issue for me. Do you know anything about educational inequity?
Do you know anything about educational inequity, Mr. Water Gallon Guy?
the differences between education, between
lower income areas are disproportionately black and...
Are disproportionately black? Hold on, I gotta get the mask there. Hold on. Lower income areas are disproportionately black? She had the face move really strong when she said that. I hope that captured on film so you guys could get the dramatic effect of that.
When that's the case, schools operate mostly off of property tax.
You're lying. I'm sorry. Let's see if NuanceBro brings up what I'm gonna say before I jump in on this one.
And when you're in a low-income area, obviously the property tax isn't very high, which means schools are not very well funded, which means they don't get the proper supplies or teachers that they need, and ultimately this leads to
a difference in outcome. That's all the fault of white people.
A continuation of the school-to-prison pipeline.
Oh, school-to-prison pipeline. There's a pipeline. I don't know if you know. You might have heard of the Keystone Pipeline. It brings oil. Well, this is a different pipeline. It's a pipeline of racism, and it brings kids from school to prison. The school-to-prison pipeline. I don't know if you guys heard about that. I'm a prospector, a child prospector. I prospect children from the school so that they can get to prison via this pipeline.
Which is a really big problem in our society.
Sure. So what's for example, the spending per capita on black students versus white students?
I don't know.
But you're talking about a disparity in education. You don't know?
I'm sorry.
I mean, that's an important number to know if we want to understand the scale of, educational inequity, right?
Right.
What? What is this? What happened? Am I getting added?
A huge
Oh my god. See, this is how you know NuanceBro's a Democrat. They're giving you Stacey Abrams in ads. Look at how depressed Stacey Abrams is, by the way, in the fact that she's not the Democratic nominee.
Raising deadline coming up.
No, wait. I wanted
Senate
to mute
Democrats.
that. Mute.
And
Yeah, there we go. Skip NuanceBro's ads. Don't support him financially. Come on.
So, do you have any scale of the percentage difference between white schools and black schools?
No.
Oh my god. This is not real. This is a really big issue for me. I don't know if you know that, NuanceBro. I don't know why I'm in Washington, D.C. talking with this Valley Girl accent, but I can't answer basic questions about this really big issue for me. Somebody said child pros. I'm not going to include that, but I did read that. I meant an oil prospector because we're talking about pipelines for children to go from school to prison. But, it's a huge issue for me, Mr. Bro of Nuance, but I don't really know anything about it. I don't know why you're asking me questions. That no is really funny. I got to replay that again.
Scale of the percentage difference between white schools and black schools?
Wait for it.
No.
No.
I'm sorry.
No, but as far
I'm sorry. She apologizes to him. Look, see, as NuanceBro gets more confident in the discussion when they're apologizing, he starts flexing again. Look, he has no reason to be holding this water bottle at all. He could put this down, right? He doesn't need it there. But he's bringing it up right now just to flex on her, right? And look how he's holding the mic in his other arm, right? He's flexing on her, double flex. He's like, pew pew, in your face, right? He doesn't need to do that. It's totally unnecessary. Number 2 fan says, notice me, Sean. I noticed you. Somebody's like, Nuance of a cod. Why don't you have YouTube Premium? Because I'm not giving YouTube money. Like, they screw over my friends and ban them. Why would I pay them?
So what metric are we working off of here?
Look. She's stunned. You know, if you funded my school a little bit better, I'd actually know what the hell I'm talking about.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Wah wah. Oh dear Lord. Look, here's the thing: is I read a study that said there's a school to prison pipeline, and I heard a story about schools that didn't look very nice, and I felt really bad about it. I felt this guilt, and then I'm white, so then I decided to project my white guilt on her, and that's what happened.
Is there like an issue that you're like maybe a little bit like you know more or you want to talk about?
Look at him. See, as he's asking the questions, he's like pumping. There you go, flexing on her. He's like, "Do you want to talk about something more than the thing you told me you're passionate about, idiot? Huh? How about that?" Like, damn, NuanceBro is so cold, calling people idiots like this. It's really vicious, honestly. Like, wow, NuanceBro.
So I work with an organization called Reading Partners.
She works with an educational organization. Come on. They told me to be aware and upbeat with this. Are you gonna put this on the internet where people can see it, Mr. Bro?
It basically partners with underserved communities. It works with kids K through 4, grades K through 4, and it works with kids who are below reading level and tries to bring them up to reading level, because if you are below reading level by the time you reach 4th grade,
You'll die.
you are like 5 times as likely to drop out of high school.
Makes sense. Makes a little bit more sense than dying, honestly. I don't know where I was going with that.
Than a child who is at reading level. So that's my big thing.
I like how NuanceBro is also picking up whatever this background conversation is that this guy's having. Like, it would be really awesome if this guy in the background said something like messed up, but unfortunately we're not that lucky.
And so what kind of policies are we out here to enact?
See, look, he's asking a question. He's feeling confident. He's bringing up the flex right there. All right? He's like, do you see this gallon of water? Do you know how heavy it is? It's how heavy is a gallon of water? Hold on one second. Let's do some investigation. I'm gonna go with like about 5 pounds, right? That sounds reasonable. 5 pounds for a gallon of water. Let's find out how much NuanceBro is flexing on these people. Gallon weight. Oh, 8.34 pounds. Okay. So NuanceBro right now is flexing on this poor girl. This poor girl that just wants to help minorities read. He's flexing on her with like 8 pounds. Like, that's really rude, honestly. Unless that's a little more than a gallon. I can't tell by the shape right now. But yeah. He said he drinks heavy water, so that makes it heavier.
Or accomplish that you feel like will result in
like he has a bag right here. Like, if he wanted to store his water, he could store it in the bag, right? It's also, he could put his water bottle on the ground. Just remember, this is 100% unnecessary. See, this girl, like, she doesn't want to be approached by guys like NuanceBro, which is why her sign just says BLM, right? And it just has hair on it. It's like, wee, hair, right? Because, like, what's NuanceBro going to do? Approach her and talk about hair? She's going to be like, listen, I'm going to tell you about black hair, Mr. Bro.
Substantive differences for the black community.
So first of all, there needs to be more funding for, this is part of what my sign is. The police get enough funding to buy, military grade equipment and
Yeah, they're buying military grade equipment. They're not the military, they're the police.
weapons and things, which really isn't necessary.
Like, well, why do the police have their own nuclear weapons, Mr. Bro? Why don't you tell me that?
At least I think. And if you redirected a lot of that funding towards schools in lower income areas.
If you redirected the funding from the police, from these crime-ridden areas, to like the public schools, which have way more money than them, then I think that would make some serious differences, Mr. Bro.
It would greatly help get more educational equity and, again, help break the school to prison pipeline. So redirected.
Yeah, she wants to break that pipeline so people, like oil, will leak out into the public, into the environment. Thank you for the bits, by the way.
Funding.
The reason I asked specifically about like the per capita spending is because I've read different studies that say even in some states where they measure the difference between like mostly white schools or mostly like non-white schools and things like that, in many states, even if you
It's like $1 to $2 grand.
just take the state funding from things like property taxes and stuff like that, not even including federal spending from the Department of Education, in many of those states you actually have more funding for the non-white schools than the white schools.
He plot twisted her face.
Is that like a surprising fact or anything like that to you?
I think even if you give more funding, it's not always about the funding, it's about teaching schools how to use funding.
I think even if they have more funding, like, you don't understand. Like, I try to help these kids learn how to read, and they're really dumb. They're, like, really, really dumb. So, think how add a little nuance to that, Mr. Bro. These kids are dumb, is what I'm trying to tell you. At 4th grade reading level, they're garbage. Below 4th grade reading level. They're in 9th grade, and they can't read in a 4th grade level. Mr. Bro.
It's kind of like not all people in lower income areas are taught financial literacy, mostly because generationally.
I mean, look, that is a problem. We probably should teach financial literacy in schools, but, like, what the hell does that have to do with spending money in the education system? Also, I don't know if he's going to bring this up, but in New Jersey, they had a bunch of Supreme Court decisions called Abbott decisions, which said that it was unconstitutional to have just a disparity in funding. So they've had this experiment where they funneled billions of dollars to match funding to the richest districts in the state of New Jersey. It hasn't solved the problem.
They didn't have to be taught financial literacy. I think that can carry over into school.
Oh, a thing happened. Oh, thank you for the subscription. I don't know where that subscription went to, but thank you.
Schools where they might not know where their funding needs to be directed.
And you're telling me they couldn't get that?
It's like a commercial for NuanceBro. Alright, I'll let the commercial play.
That gun, I mean the knife from him, if he had one. And so they could have just, they didn't have to shoot, and they're going to shoot him in his back. If he had one, it was that way. He was going to his car. There was no reason for him to be shot. I don't know. Why did you say that? Are you agreeing with that? That he?
Yeah, give him the business, lady.
He should have been shot because he had a knife.
First of all, let's talk about what I like to call dynamic range on a camera. This shot needs to be shot the opposite way because a camera is not the human eye. So when you have all these highlights that are blown out right here and these guys looking like they're in shadow, that's because they framed this shot wrong. If the camera person just flipped around 180 degrees and shot this from the other side, then we would actually be able to see them and they wouldn't be talking like they're under a bridge. So, just saying. Dynamic range.
In his car? Are you agreeing with it?
Am I agreeing?
Yeah.
Yeah, are you agreeing with that, Mr. Bro? Poke him in the chest when you talk to him.
Yeah.
So why are we out here?
I wanted to see that interview. Boo. Well, I mean, oh, thank you for doing the thing, Cheetah of Doom. I appreciate that. Yeah, I definitely wanted to see that interview, if I'm being perfectly honest. I guess I'll have to go to nuancebro.com/join and just sign up. That's nuancebro.com/join. That's his join website. I think it's like $700 a month, something like that. But you know what? If you go to nuancebro.com/join right now, then I can guarantee you it won't even be 1% of that $700 he normally charges. I'm launching a sale right now. It's going to be like $6. And it gets you into his own personal private Discord. You're welcome. Gift from me. Only through me. You get that. I just made that deal. The nuancebro.com/join. I think that's what he calls it. It's like TYT membership, except not as good. Perfect. So we're going over this Nuance Bro video. It says Cheese of Doom, subscribe via Twitch Prime. I don't know if I caught that one. Thank you. So we're watching this Nuance Bro video where he's confronting the BLM types. We're up to this woman. We're about 9 minutes in. Oh my god, it's 38 minutes. Jesus, Nuance Bro. But I realized that I was unprepared for a Nuance Bro stream. Like I was unprepared to go over his thing. So I gotta prepare a little bit better for it, because Nuance Bro videos require a certain level of preparation if you're going to talk about them, because Nuance Bro has, you know, he has his ways of doing things. So let me just... So my preparation has worked. I now have a gallon of water. Hold its break. Now I'm good. Now every time I make a point, I will flex my gallon of water on Nuance Bro, and you know, that's what we're gonna do from now on.
Here today
to support the march.
All right, and what are we trying to achieve?
Justice.
Oh, look, see, there it is, his bottle of water.
And by what means? Like, what are we trying to do specifically to achieve?
I like how this woman right here in the background is just sitting in the park, bored with everything, just sitting in the park.
Achieve, you know, better outcomes for black people.
What are we trying to do? We're trying to demand justice from the people that serve us, from the cops, from our elected officials.
And is there any like specific policies or legislation that we're pushing for today?
Policies or legislation?
Yeah.
Policies or legislation?
Because we want to make real differences.
Okay, that water went down too fast. It's cold. Hurting my chest. Yeah.
Right.
So we want to talk about defunding the police. Everybody keeps talking about defunding the police, right? And they think that we want them to like dismantle the police, and that's not what they're asking for. They're asking, well, I don't think that it's about that. I think that it's more about providing other services, right? And a gentleman gave us these for DC, right? And he said instead of calling the police, you can call, like, if it's a mental health or if it's social workers.
Yeah, social workers.
So that's what we're asking for. Social workers, we're asking for jobs, job creation,
We just want jobs. Like, defund the police and get us jobs. That's how that works, right? You take money out of the police and then you put it into the jobs. The jobs. Somebody said the pH balance is off on the water. Is it vodka? No, it's not. I would not be drinking that much vodka. Who am I, a psychopath? I think Cognitive Thought, if you remember that guy, he drank a bunch of booze on stream and then threw up all over himself. That's not going to happen here.
Opportunities for them to quit shipping jobs, like low wage earning jobs or low
Oh, Nuance Bro likes that. Nuance Bro hates the immigrants. I don't know if you guys know that.
skill jobs overseas.
Yeah, that's a great point. A lot of jobs, especially within...
I told you he was going to like that. He's like, they're immigrants. They took our germs. Wow, let me get some water for that.
The African-American community, you know, you could say a lot of it was hurt by a lot of these trade deals that were made in the past, whether it's shipping jobs over to China or even below the border to
China.
You know, Mexico and third world countries.
So it's intentional, right? All of the legislation, policy and legislation is what created the problems in the black community, and policy and legislation is the only thing that's going to fix the problems in the black community. So that's what we need. Policy created the white middle.
I just realized she has a flag in her hair. I have no further comments on that, but I did just realize that.
Middle class. Create some policy that creates a black middle class, right? That's all that we're asking, right? Is to be treated equally in a country that we worked and developed.
Sure. Do you have an example?
Oh, I thought she was gonna say we built this country. Yeah, policy is not what like hurt like the black community. Trade policy is not what hurt the black community. This goes back to what I was talking about earlier when I was explaining that there were natural advantages to building in places like Baltimore, like Detroit, and having businesses like located there, and those natural advantages no longer exist because transportation is not that big of a thing to consider. So, that policy is not necessarily what's going to fix it. Like, if you guys understand my meaning. But, anything but the actual topic. Jesus, that was loud. Hydrates or die. Thank you.
Of like a specific like piece of legislation or policy that you feel like would achieve that?
Would achieve what?
What you just said, like, bringing about more, positive change for the black community in the way you just described.
Well, you know what? It's a bunch of policy like redlining and stuff, right? Policy.
Yeah, get rid of redlining. When was that abolished? NuanceBro's gonna tell you. Watch, he's gonna pick up the water and flex on her.
That one ended a while.
See? Do you see that water bottle moving? Do you see it?
No, that shit didn't. Oh, I'm sorry.
Ooh, swearing on NuanceBro's channel, ma'am. This is a Christian program, and you can't be swearing on his channel. Rude and disgusting and disgraceful. Terrible.
It didn't end. They still...
Well, legally it ended.
Well, legally it ended, but people still do stuff undercover and stuff, right? So we just want to be treated fairly and equally in our own country, right? And even, like the other day, President... I never say those two words together. Let me take that back. Chump.
Oh, not my president. Not my president. Like, NuanceBro's gonna laugh. Oh, I realize he has like 2 breathing apparatuses here. That's not for the virus. That's for the protest. Antifas might be around there, and they smell bad.
Passed legislation that said that they don't require degrees to work for the federal government, right? Okay. Well, guess what? They never required degrees for people that are white. The degree requirement was for people who look like us, right? Oh. To keep us out. Well, guess what? Because black people are like black women.
What? The degree requirement was to keep what? What? I think certain fields they would stop looking for degrees if that's a real policy. I honestly haven't heard of it, so... What? What is this? What is she saying? Silly person.
Especially are the most educated populace in America, right?
Relative, I think that one's a ratio, right, compared to black men or something. So it's like male to women ratio, black women like compared to women of other races,
so
like
black
ratio.
Women are the most educated populace in the country.
The most, sir. Sit the fuck down.
It depends on how you measure it. Like if it's based on like PhDs or masters per capita, it's not the case. But if it's relative to their male counterparts, yes, that's true.
What? Advertising? I told you, I'm not giving NuanceBro any money. They're advertising for Google on Google. No, I wanted to mute this. All right, let's mute. Mute. Open up that door. Mute it. There we go. No free advertising for you, Google. You disgust me.
Okay, so, but again, that piece of Trump passed that because guess what? Now, it's just 2 sets of rules in America, and that's what
Trump passed that because 2 sets of rules in America. Trump passed this thing that objectively would make it easier for black people to be hired by the federal government. Systemic systems of systematic racism.
We want is for it to change. There not to be 2 sets of rules, right? Even with policing and stuff, right? With crime bills, they were just talking about that. The fact that black people get longer sentences for the same crimes, right? Back in the 80s.
Actually, so they've done. So I've seen the studies on this. And they don't typically control for factors like whether or not it's a repeat offense, whether or not it's urban versus rural, or more importantly, whether or not it's the same judge. Like, judges give different sentences. Like, judges are human beings based on policies. And remember, part of the reason why they instituted mandatory minimum sentences was to get rid of sentencing disparities. And now they complain about that as systemically racist policies. But in reality, even in the best case scenario, if you ignore all the things that the study ignores, we're talking about a difference of like 10% in sentencing, which is significant. Like, you know, if you're getting 10 years versus somebody else getting 9 years, that's an extra year, that's 10%. But in reality, it's not even that 10%.
80s and the 90s and stuff when crack was out, right? They had different sentences for crack than they did for powder cocaine because guess
the
what?
94 crime bill and things like that.
Yeah, because people who had crack
She keeps touching her face, too, and she's talking without the mask. Like, why are you wearing a shield and touching your face? Also, is NuanceBro going to bring up methamphetamine?
look like us, right? And so all of the legislation.
Oh, she said look like us. I think she thinks NuanceBro is part of the diaspora. That's the phraseology I'll use.
And stuff that they passed in the
He's trying to flex. He's bringing in the water bottle. Don't forget, he's carrying a water bottle.
past, you know, it was really geared towards us, right?
Well, wasn't the 94 crime bill like supported by a lot of the, you know, black members of Congress as well? Like it was pushed almost like really hard by them, especially.
Because they didn't know any better. When you know better, you do better. We didn't know any better. They had convinced us that it was bad crime in the African American community, which it was bad crime, but it goes back to all the stuff that we've been talking about, lack of jobs, lack of opportunity.
Lack of gerbs.
Right? It's not because black people are just criminals or criminal-minded, right? But if
No, I mean, this is obviously policy implications can change it, like the strategery, I'm fucking George Bush right now. The strategy that the police use has a big impact of it. 9% federally is what I'm being told for the sentencing. Yeah, that's their best case scenario. But yeah, these bills were pushed heavily by the Congressional Black Caucus because like there was a huge crime problem in the black community, and historically black people wouldn't have police show up for them, so they were trying to address that.
you ship all the jobs out of the community, you plant drugs in the community, right? All that shit was intentional. So
Ooh, going full conspiracy. There's a lot of conspiracy theories in the United States of America, and it crosses all bounds. You know, you got anti-vaxxers, excuse me, which span the like ultra rich celebrities that are super secular, all the way to like the religious right. Like it's crazy how much conspiracies just proliferate. There we go. In the country.
So, you know what, again, policy created the problems in the black community. Policy is going to fix it. And so that's all we want. We want to be treated fairly in our own country, the country that we built, that our ancestors built. We want policy that fixes.
I knew it. I knew this was coming. That we built it. We built this country. Excuse me. We built it. You and me, NuanceBro. We built it. You're in the diaspora, right? Or am I reading
some of the issues and some of the ills that it created? We want fair sentencing. For African American, all of that stuff was to imprison African Americans. The 3 strikes rule. I can't even think. It was to create the problems that are existing right now in the African American community, right? And so that's what we want. We want you, the people that are in charge, the people that.
This is what I call omnipotent racism. Like it's everything that's wrong in the black community is due to white people doing that. Even the black people, the black representatives, the Congressional Black Caucus supporting the crime bills, that was also the fault of white people.
We vote for to create policy that helps us, to bring jobs back to America that are not low wage, but they have low skilled jobs and stuff. And when you start shipping those jobs out of the country, then it hurts people that unfortunately disproportionately look like us. Right?
Oh no, she is.
You talked about, for example, the crack.
She is 100% thinking that NuanceBro is in the alliance. What she doesn't know is that NuanceBro is a Persian from San Francisco. Like he's super rich. Like NuanceBro is a multi-millionaire. Like his parents own 35 companies.
To bring jobs back to America.
NuanceBro goes up to people like Tesla, calls them up. He's like, yo, on his Tesla phone. You guys don't even know about that because only rich people like NuanceBro have it. He's like, yo, Elon, what's going on with my car? And then Elon answers him because that's how rich NuanceBro is. Yes, he is the Prince of Persia. That is a fact.
That are low waged, not low wage, but they have low skill jobs and stuff. And when you start shipping those jobs out of the country, then it hurts people that unfortunately disproportionately look like us.
Yeah, see, look like us.
Right?
So, I mean, you talked about, for example, the crack cocaine disparity when it came to sentencing versus like normal cocaine, powdered cocaine. They also had that for meth, for example.
Oh, he is bringing up meth. And I think it's something, so if I have to go off the top of my brain, like my super gigantic big brain, I want to say anywhere from like 20 to 30% of the people that use crack are white, but only 2% of the people that are sentenced, or I'm talking about the ones who get sentenced federally, are white. Like it's actually, like higher, but only like 2% of the people who get sentenced for meth are black. So this is way more disproportionate to impact white people. Whoops.
Which is a drug that's used almost exclusively, or at least way disproportionately, by white people. They had the same type of sentencing for that as they did for crack. Like, do you think that was racial too? Or?
So with the meth thing, you know what? I'm so happy you brought that up because you know what? They treat it a lot differently than they treat crack cocaine, right?
No. That's what he just said. No.
Well, the sentencing and the law was.
Well, no, they treated crack like criminal, like it was criminal, right? But when meth, which is, like you said, not even meth, but
She's gonna say powder cocaine. All right, so I get what she was saying. She just misspoke. It's live. She's in front of a camera. I'm being a little too harsh.
all of the, what do you call that stuff?
Crystal meth?
Not the meth, black, the other stuff that you get from the doctors.
Opiates?
Opiates. Like, it's a huge opiate addiction crisis in America, right? And so now it's a mental health issue all of a sudden because it's white people, right? When it was black people, it was a criminal issue and they were locking black people up.
Well, they made meth a criminal issue too. Like, people go to jail for meth. And it was the same sentencing as crack.
So I don't know because I've not followed the meth.
Sure.
I do know about the opioid crisis.
Yeah, I mean, the opioid crisis is, like, as a country, I didn't do anything. I don't know why I'm saying we. But as a country, opioids were over-prescribed across this nation. And, like, a lot of the synthetic opioids were sold to doctors and patients as something that was non-addictive. And so they just kept getting prescribed over and over and over again. So people kept getting addicted to them. And then during the Obama administration, when Obamacare actually kicked in, all these people that were broke had access to Medicaid, and then they started getting opioids. So that actually blew up the opioid crisis. And then people realized, okay, we're basically getting all these people hooked on opioids. So the Obama administration put pressure on doctors to stop prescribing this, which they did. And then all these people ended up buying like heroin on the street to compensate for their opioid addiction that they developed. So a lot of this has to do with people not realizing that stuff that you get from a doctor, like a prescription drug, is just as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than what you would get on the street. So this was actually a crisis that was created in part by the federal government, the fact that we let opioids slide for a long time. So yeah, I mean, you could, if you're like bitter, like you could be like, look, I don't like that because there's a lot of white people that are sick, that are opioid addicted, that all of a sudden this is a mental health issue or a health issue when they didn't treat crack that way. But you have to remember, we do have a bias against smokable drugs like crack cocaine. And again, meth was treated the same way. So,
And I know that, again, it's a mental health crisis all of a sudden. But when it was black people using crack, they made it a criminal, lock people up.
So you mentioned a lot of like the social things that lead.
Again, black people use crack way, way less than, at least federally, according to the sentencing, than, white people, black people use crack way, way less than white people use meth. Only 2% of the people federally convicted for meth offenses in any given year, I'm sure it goes up to like at least 5%, are black. But the sentencing was the same, because we have a bias against smokable drugs.
to things like crime, whether it's poverty. I would say even like growing up in a two-parent household, for example, the marriage rates, or at least the single motherhood rates in the black community have skyrocketed since, you know, the 50s and 60s. Why do you think that is? Is that another thing that you feel like was by design and policy?
Yeah, it was policy.
Oh my God, everything is a conspiracy.
That created
Sure,
it.
how
You know,
so?
when you guys started giving welfare to black mothers and stuff, and you told the black fathers they couldn't be in the house, you know, oh, you can have welfare, you can have Section 8, you can have food stamps, but guess what? Your husband can't be in the house. So yes, it was policy driven. It was policy driven. It was intentional.
I mean, yeah, responding to incentives that does create problems. Whether or not this was intentional or not is kind of like neither here nor there. It just so happens that these programs were designed to help low-income people, and low-income people that didn't have fathers in the household. So we ended up incentivizing fatherlessness. So, you know, somebody said NuanceBro injects at least 4 steroids a day. That's hilarious because he is flexing on her. Look, he's trying to flex.
Everything that these people have done to black people in America has been intentional, and it has been with intent to destroy
Please ask her who these people are.
our community. So yes, it was policy driven.
Who are these people?
Yes, NuanceBro, thank you. I've been busting your balls for no reason. Like, I've been a total asshole to you, and I'm sorry. I denounce and reject myself for that. But thank you for asking this question. Who are these people? Tell me who these people are. Identify these people.
The people that run the country, the government.
So you think it's like a
She said the government. Darn.
bipartisan thing, not exclusively one side or another?
I think that it is. I believe that it's both sides. I don't trust either one of them.
So in the race between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, are you like choosing one side, or are you choosing one side or the other? Like what?
She's going for Joe.
What are your thoughts on that, given their histories and
She's going for Joey B.
things like that?
Every morning when I wake up, I pray to God that I can pull the lever for Biden.
Yeah.
Yeah, see? Told you she was going for that. What is that? Are you guys subscribing to my normal YouTube channel? I don't get what's going on and why that notification keeps popping up. Joey B.
Yes, because he is the author of the crime bill. He is the reason that a whole bunch of black people are in jail. I have to pray to God every morning.
Look at NuanceBro. Like, he doesn't have to stand like that. Again, he's flexing on her.
Trump didn't vote for the crime bill though. and the Biden was worked with
I would
against
rather
segregation.
die than vote for Trump.
What do you think about the?
She'd rather die. I mean, I wouldn't rather die than vote for either one. I mean, come on. My life is more valuable than who's president. The president actually has very little impact on the day-to-day lives of Americans. But, okay. Somebody said actual boomer warrior. True.
First Step Act that he passed.
What is the First Step Act?
First Step Act, it was an act passed.
Ooh, it's saying an ad's coming in 5.
I see a lot of people don't even know the First
I've
Step
never
Act.
even heard of.
Alright. Let's mute that. Not giving NuanceBro any money. Oh, attorney at law? Is this like a personal injury thing?
The First Step Act, it dealt with like federal sentencing, a lot of it that came from the '94 crime bill, and it reduced a lot of these, or even eliminated in some cases, I believe, the mandatory minimums that involved in a lot of these like drug sentencing and things like that. It was a pretty, it was
Subscribe to his channel, guys.
actually praised, I think, even by people like Al Sharp,
And ring the bell.
as far as like, it was probably the biggest, criminal justice reform legislation in a
And Trump
generation.
passed that?
Yeah.
Oh, is that why he's always saying that he's done more for black people than anybody else?
That's one of the reasons, and you've seen some of the people that he's pardoned, a lot of the, black people he's pardoned from, certain crimes or whatever, who
I mean, he's commuted a lot more sentences than he's actually pardoned, but,
now speak in support of him.
Okay, so that's one piece of legislation, but we've been in this country for 400 years. It's
400 years. Country's not that old.
hundreds of years of legislation that has.
But the Democrats didn't pass it when they were in power under
That's right.
Obama, but it seems like the Republicans under, Trump passed that major piece of legislation.
So again, all of them have passed legislation that has hurt black people.
Well, he's saying that this one helped them, but okay.
So
Is there one in particular that the Trump administration has passed that you take issue with, that you feel like has harmed the black community?
no, no. But Trump is a racist. Every word.
He's the racist. Every word out of his mouth is racist.
Out of his mouth is racist.
It's like I can see the future.
He's evil.
Ooh, evil. He's Satan. He's orange Satan. He's orange like my nails, but also Satan.
Yeah. And I think that he's a criminal.
He's a criminal.
I think he's a criminal.
Yeah, I mean, they did impeach him over, those alleged crimes and things like that.
All right, what is that? Just subscribe. Oh yeah, somebody. Oh no, these are subscriptions to Twitch Prime. To Twitch. Thank you for the subscriptions. Oh no, that's the subscription to Twitch. Thank you for that, Brent. I do appreciate that. Yeah, it's my YouTube. I have to disable that.
I think he's a Russian asset too.
Ooh, Russian. She went the full CNN list right there. She's like, how about that, Mr. Bro?
I will have that said. I think that he works for the Russians. He's Putin's bitch.
Putin. He's Putin's bitch. Bitch.
So why are we out here today?
Oh my god. Okay. I'm like halfway through this. 50% of the way. I got my water bottle. You know what I realized? I have like the air conditioner running and this is like really cold water. So like every time I drink it, I'm like getting cold. So you know what I'm gonna do? Like a proper person, I'm gonna pour it in a cup and drink out of the cup. Yeah, I've been streaming for like an hour and 40. You know what? Somebody's like, stop flexing. Alright, so I'm halfway through this. I will put a pin in this right here, since it's the start of a new interview. And I will go over this the next time, unless there's something new and better to go over. Somebody says water bottle to cup pipeline. So honestly, thank you guys so much for joining. I do appreciate it. I'm going to drop you guys off in Vamp's stream. She's streaming. Vamp is like always the beneficiary of when I'm streaming. So go say hi to her. She's wonderful.